Hey guys, this is Neil from Edureka and welcome to this session on Power BI Dashboard. Now without wasting any time, let's move forward and look at today's agenda. Now first thing that we'll be doing is we'll be trying to understand what are the interfaces in Power BI, what are the various functionalities of Power BI. Then we'll move on to understand how to create a report and dashboard in Power BI, and finally we'll see how to use Power BI in real life scenario. Are you guys clear with today's agenda? Can I have a quick confirmation? Okay, it's good to see that you guys are all following. So let's go on and discuss the first topic of this session, that is what exactly is Power BI. Now, Power BI basically is the self-service business intelligence tool released by Microsoft in 2013, which basically was a combination of different add-ons that Microsoft had issued for MS Excel. Now, in comparison to your other business intelligence tool, this is a cloud-based tool, but the interfaces that you have here are on three different platforms. You have Power BI Desktop, which can be downloaded and installed onto your system, wherein you can create various reports, get better insight with respect to your data. Then you have Power BI Service, wherein you're working with respect to dashboards. You can also manipulate your data here. And finally, you have Power BI Mobile, which is also helpful for you to watch your reports while you're on the go. So are you guys clear with respect to what is Power BI? Okay, that's great. So moving forward, let's try to talk about the major concern of today's session, that is what exactly is a dashboard. Now, there's always the ambiguity that you get, so let me clear it out. A dashboard in Power BI basically is a single page wherein you have all your visualizations with respect to a specific requirement present there. Now, this dashboard could be with respect to different domains. Now, let's say if it's a HR dashboard, then what would happen is you would have the details of the employees, you would have the ratio of the employees, you would have the number of employees that have come in today, you would see the number of requests that have come to the HR and so forth. Okay, now here what you're seeing basically is a marketing dashboard. Now it basically is a company-based marketing dashboard where you're seeing the different opportunities, opportunity count, the revenue and so forth. So to be very short, a dashboard is just one single page of visualization which tells you a story. Now this story basically is to meet the end user's requirement. So it's up to the user who's creating this dashboard to customize the story as per their choice and make a happy ending as such. Now there is always the ambiguity as to how a dashboard is different from a report. So let's talk about that next. Now as I had mentioned earlier, a dashboard basically is just one page canvas here which tells you the complete story that you want to know. However, a report can contain more than one single page. What happens here is a report is way more detailed, way more insighted and way more specific with respect to the requirements. So let's say if you want to have a complete analysis, then you would go for a report rather than a dashboard. Now here again, when you talk about the data sources that a dashboard can take, since a dashboard is a combination of different visuals, this basically can come from different types of reports. Thereby you can also integrate your data from different sources as well. But when we're talking about a report, here you're mainly working with one single data set that is specifically used for that report purpose. So let's say you're going to create a marketing report, then you're going to take just the marketing data. But let's say when you're looking at organizational data, there you're going to have data from the marketing, you're going to have marketing data from the sales, finance, and so forth. Then you have the option of pinning. Now, what do I mean by pinning? Basically, it means that you're adding or copying a specific visual. Now, in terms of a dashboard, you can pin an existing tile from a current dashboard to any dashboard. That is, if it's already present in the current dashboard, then you can put it to any other dashboard. However, in case of a report, you have a broader opportunity where you can pin it to any dashboard as such. If you want, you can pin the entire page of the report to your dashboard as well. Are you guys clear here? Good. Now, apart from that, let's say if you want to filter or modify your data to get better insights, then what happens is this cannot be done with respect to a dashboard. In your dashboard, the data is already fed, so filtering and slicing it there would not be possible. However, when you're working with a report, here you can basically filter your data, you can highlight it, you can slice it as per your requirements, you can join your data, you can separate them, you can group them. All this can be done on a report level. However, when it comes on a dashboard level, it basically cannot be done. So if you achieve this slicing or filtering on the report level, definitely it will be applicable on the dashboard. But however, it cannot be directly implemented on the dashboard. Then you have the option of alerts. That is, when a certain condition is met, then you can get an alert from that. This could be on your mobile application, that is a Power BI mobile application. You could get a notification, or let's say this could come to you as an email. So this again can be set on the dashboard itself. So let's say you're comparing multiple parameters. Let's say at one given point your sales and profit values have changed. It has come down below a certain value. Then what happens is, as an organizational person, you need to take the responsible measures. So this can be very useful when you're monitoring your data on a real-time basis as well. And in cases when you're working with multiple dashboards, to differentiate with respect to different dashboards, you can set them as featured dashboards. Now, featured dashboards basically are those dashboards which are highlighted from the rest. However, in case of the report, it cannot be set as such. And then moving on from there, you can also use natural language querying. Now, what exactly is a natural language querying, we'll be looking at in the later part of the session. But to give you a simple idea or an understanding here, what it basically refers to is that you can directly feed your queries in English itself. You don't need to write them as a SQL statement or anything like that. So let's say you want to identify which is my top selling store, then definitely you can just write that and your Power BI dashboard will convert it and give you the output in form of a visual. Now don't worry, we'll be seeing that as part of our demonstration as well later on. So I hope you guys are quite interested. Now apart from that, on a dashboard level, you cannot change the visual representation of a certain form of visual. That is, let's say if you're using a line chart to denote something, then as per your requirement, you cannot change it in a dashboard. So you need to go back to your report, then you need to modify it there, and then you need to pin this updated visual. So what happens is it gets updated in the dashboard as well. But when you directly modify it in the report, it does not get reflected. So you need to repin this updated visual as well. Now, when you come down to the customization capability of both, a dashboard basically uses visualizations in form of a read-only method here. So any changes that you make are basically with respect to the changing in names. You can either link them, you can resize them, rearrange them, and so forth in the dashboard. However, in a report, here you have complete right with respect to the visualization as well as the data that you're working with. So you can modify it, change it as per your requirements. It's completely left to you as to how you can work around with it. So are you guys clear with respect to both? How a report is different from a dashboard? Okay, I seem to have a question here. Do we need to create reports for dashboards? Definitely you do, because it's from the reports that you will be going on to create a dashboard. So to put it more simply, reports give you a complete idea, whereas a dashboard will give you a complete overview. So based on your requirements, you can use whichever meets your necessity. Is that okay? That's great. So moving forward, let's look at the data set that we'll be working with today. So we are going to work with a superstore data set of a United States organization, which was collected basically from 2011 to 2016. Okay. Now I'll be showing you the data set as well. Just a minute. So this is your complete data set. You have basically the date of order, you have shipping date, the ship mode, the customer ID, customer name, which segment it was from, postal code, city, state, country. Apart from that, you have region, market, the product ID, the category, subcategory, and so forth. Okay, so I hope you've got a general idea of what the data set looks like. Okay, that's great. So what we need to do is we need to mainly achieve 4 insights from these data. First, what we need to identify is the overall performance. That is, we need to identify the sales and profit of our complete superstore. Okay, apart from that, we'll also try to identify the performance in different regions, and we'll see which are profitable regions and which are non-profitable regions. Then what we'll do is we'll try to identify the performance of each state as a whole. Okay, now which state is going to show you the opportunity of growing, which is basically pulling your market down, and which is something that you can look forward to in investment or marketing as well. Okay, after that you have insight 3, where we'll be seeing the performance of different segments involved in the superstore and how do they contribute as well. Finally, what we'll be doing is we'll try to understand the revenue generated by each category of product. Now, there are different categories of the product, so we'll see which category is hampering our growth and which is feeding our growth as well. Okay, are you guys clear? Great. Now, the first thing we need to do is that you need to install Power BI. For that, you need to go to Power BI's official website, that is powerbi.microsoft.com, and you can directly download the option here. Let me show you how it's done. So here you have the option of Power BI desktop. So first what we need to do is that we need to create our reports. Then we'll go on to create a final dashboard which has all these insights. So what we'll do is we'll be creating a report for each of the insights in the Power BI desktop. So here just click on download option and it'll automatically initiate the download. So once you've downloaded this file, okay, then you need to install it. It's a very easy installation step, and once you're done with that, please let me know so that we can continue. Great, so now that we've all installed Power BI Desktop, let's begin with the demo session. So for that we need to launch our Power BI Desktop. Let me just launch it. So this is what your Power BI would look like when you've been launched it. So one thing I would recommend is that you sign in. If you've not created a sign in, then definitely make sure that you create a sign-in on Power BI Desktop. So once you've successfully logged in, you get this notification here of your username as well. So let me just give you a simple overview with respect to how Power BI works, and then we'll start with respect to our session. Now first you have a simple workspace. That is the first workspace that you're seeing is the report workspace. This is the workspace where you will be creating the different visuals as well as creating the different reports as well. Then you have the data workspace. So when you're loading a data, any data that you're working with can be viewed here. All the modifications that you want to perform with respect to the data can be done here. And finally, you have the relational workspace. Now, the relational workspace is one of the useful workspace when you're working with multiple tables. Now, this helps you establish as well as manage the different relationships between the multiple tables as well. Okay, so let me just go back to my report workspace, and here the first thing we need to do is that we need to import the data set. Now for that you have this option here called get data. So click on get data, and you have the most common data types here. You have Excel, Power BI service, SQL server, analytical service. So for seeing the complete list, click on more, and here you have the complete list of different data sources that you can connect with respect to our Power BI desktop. Now we're going to work with an Excel file, so let me just click on Excel, and it's going to ask me the location. So let me just go down, Global Superstore, and it's establishing a connection to the data set. Okay, so since my data set has multiple pages, it shows me the different pages as well. You have orders, you have people, and you have return. Once you are on a sheet, it extracts about 200 rows and gives you an overview with respect to what is present in your data set. Okay, this basically helps you verify what data set you're working with and is it a valid data set or not. So since we need only orders detail, let me just click on orders and then click on load. So now we can see successfully the data has been loaded because you can find the options of fields here. Okay, so this basically is with respect to the orders table. So let's say if you're working with multiple tables, each one of the tables as well as all the columns present in those tables would be highlighted here. Okay, so this is where we'll be working around with. Now to get a more insight with respect to your data, you can go to the data workspace, and here you have the complete preview of your data. So this is your complete data set present here, and you get to see whatever data is present. And if you wish to perform any operation on this, so let's say if you want to modify this data, then you can click on edit queries option here, and you get the query editor. So this becomes the workspace where you can perform all your different operations on your actual data set. Now by default, Power BI does perform certain amount of operations on your data while it's loading itself. So these steps can be viewed here. Okay, so any operation that you don't want Power BI to do can be removed here. Or let's say if you are performing any operation, then that also can be removed from this option here. So every step that you perform gets added to this applied step option. So for now, let me just close this and let's go back to our workspace. So first what we'll be doing is we'll be trying to create a sample visuals. Okay, so this basically will give you a feel of how Power BI works. So what we'll be doing is, let me call it profit leaders here. So to rename any report, you can just double click there and let's call it profit leaders. Okay, now what I'll be doing is I'm going to create a combination of my different states as well as the profits that each of them have brought in. So let me just bring in the states. Okay, so this basically is going to create a default visualization. Okay, and since it states, what it's doing is trying to put it on a map visual. Okay, so for that what I'll do is I'll add in the profit details as well. Okay, now when I add the details of profit, what happens is it sees the difference with respect to the size. So let me just filter a little more. I'll add in details with respect to the country as well. Okay, so this basically will filter out all the data. So let me just bring this up, and here you can see the profit across different states that I am making in different countries as well. Okay, so this basically is a geographical representation of all the profit that I am making across the globe. Okay, now let me show you how to filter out the data as well. Okay, now when you come down in your fields option, you have this option called filters. Now in filters, if you click on country, okay, you can see all the countries present here. Now if I just select one specific country, so let's say, let me take United States. Okay, then what happens is my complete visualization changes with respect to United States alone. Okay, so here basically it becomes with respect to United States. Okay, so all the profits that you're seeing right now is with respect to the different states in United States. Okay, so if you just go down, hover over them, you can see the different profits, and you can see some states are negative. Okay, so what happens is I need to identify which are my positive states and which are my negative states. So what we'll do is we'll try to change the colors with respect to which they are represented. So for that, go to the next field, that is the format field. Okay, now here you have the option of data colors. Now the same size with respect to the profit seen can also be represented in a different map based system also, that's called filled map system, wherein what actually happens is that the color intensity of each of the states is with respect to the value of profit that they make. Now let's say if you want to variate the value to identify the regions which make profit, with the format tab, here under data colors option you have something known as divergence. When you turn on divergence, what basically happens is there's a variation with respect to the color. So let me just change this color setup as a whole because it seems a bit confusing right now. So I'll make the minimum as light green. Okay, I'll make the middle as the medium green, and finally the maximum as dark green. Okay, so this basically helps me get a better idea with respect to this as well. Now let's say if you want to go more detail, let's say the minimum, or let's say the center. Okay, I'll set it as 0. Okay, that means states which are not giving me negative profits are center. Okay, states below that should get let's say I'll give them a blue color. Okay, center, let me give it a different color, let me say yellow, and the maximum profit making states are in green. Okay, so here it starts from blue. Okay, when you look at Texas, it has a complete negative value. Okay, these are my mid-level profit making states, but whereas California is giving me one of the highest profits, similar to New York as well. Okay, so you can see the variation with respect to the color and how we have modulated with respect to that. So I hope you guys have got a simple feel of how to create a visual with respect to Power BI. Okay, I have another question here. It's how do you know which visual to work with? Okay, so by default you get multiple date kinds of visuals present in Power BI itself, and there are a lot of custom visuals as well. So it is completely left to you as a representative as to what form of visual that you want to represent it. Certain data that may be represented in a pie chart would be very helpful. But when I bring it back to a bar chart or a line chart, it may not give me a clear-cut picture. So it's finally in your hands to decide which kind of visuals to use. Are you clear? Okay, so let's go back to our presentation and start with the first insight. Now the first thing we need to identify is the overall trend with respect to our sales and profit, as well as get an insight with respect to the different regions and identify the regions which are profitable and non-profitable. So for this, let me go back to our Power BI and let's begin by creating our first insight. So let me begin by creating a new page for this report. So click on this option plus here to create a new page. Okay, and let me call it overall performance. So double click and then we're set. Now what we need to do is that we need to identify the sales and profit. Okay, so for that, drag sales from here, drop it on your workspace, and similarly drag profits. Okay, by default what is happening is you're creating a clustered column chart. Okay, now you can change it as per your requirement. So let's say you want to create a line chart. So just click on line. So the sales and profit data gets converted to a line chart here. But since we don't have a second parameter or the axis based on which these values have to be mapped, it's just giving me 2 points. Now this is the sum of sales and sum of profit that I have made on a given interval. So for that, what I'll do is that I'll bring in the order date, that is the date on which it was ordered. Okay, so when I said order date here, you get different parameters here. You have year, quarter, month and day. So let me remove year. I'll remove month and day, and I'll make it in terms of quarter. So it is giving me in a reverse order, that is with respect to the different quarters. So you can see here it is giving me a descending order as to the sales and profit. Now this is basically because it is getting sorted with respect to the quarter. To change that, just click on the 3 dots here. Okay, then you can see it by default it has set sort by quarter. So you can change it sort by sales or sort by profit. So you can see here by default it is giving me quarter 4, quarter 3, quarter 2 and quarter 1. Okay, so I want it in an ascending order. This is something that is set by default. So to change that, just click on the 3 dots present here. Okay, you can see it is following a descending order. So I want to make it in an ascending order. So just click it again and then you can see it changes into an ascending order, where it's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Okay, so the size seems a bit small. So let me just increase that as well. So let me make it 20. Similarly, let me increase here as well on the y-axis. So this is basically how you can increase the size of the font that are present with respect to the different axes. So I hope this is a little more clear. So you can see with respect to quarter 1, my sales was close to 2 million, wherein I had made a profit almost about $240,000. But when I went to quarter 2, it increased. My sales reached about 3 million and my profit equally increased to 325 million. Finally, by third quarter, I had a sale close to 3.5 million, but a profit at the same time was more. It was about $400,000. Finally, in my quarter 4, I had a sale close to 4.3 million. At the same time, a profit of $500,000. Okay, so let me just increase the legend size as well, because this is your legend. So it helps me identify which is my sales line, which is my profit line as well. So here again, let me make it, let's say 20 itself. And let's say if you want to change the color of the line as well, you can do that in the data color option here. So sales can, let's say if you want to give it a blue, and for profit, let's say I'll go with red. Okay, so this is a blue and red combination that is happening here. Okay, so I hope you guys are trying this out simultaneously. Now one thing you need to understand is this is a combination of the different quarters data. Now, this data, as I had mentioned, is a collection of number of sales from 2011 till 2015. Okay, so here what happens is all the dates get grouped up with respect to the different quarters. So this value that you see, okay, this basically is a summation of all the sales and profit you have made in the first quarter for the year 2011, 2012, 13, 14 and 15. Okay, so this is a complete combination with respect to that sale. Okay, that's the only reason that you have 4 points as well. But if this was not happening, then you would have 20 points rather than 4 points. But now what is happening is it's combining the different quarters. Then it is helping me understand what is happening exactly. Now let's say if you want to filter this data a little more. So let's come back to our fields tab. And here I come down. You can see here the different options already present here. You can see with respect to the different quarters. You can see with respect to different profit, as well as sales. Now let me bring in something interesting here. So let me bring in my category here as well. So just drag and drop category here and it gets added. So let's say I want with respect to only furniture. So if you select furniture, okay, the visualization completely changes. So earlier where I was making 2 million sales, now it's only $670,000. These are actual sales amount and my profit is close to $50,410. So again, this basically varies because this is the details with respect to my furniture. Now let's say if I remove furniture and add office supplies, then it slightly changes with respect to that same. So are you guys clear with respect to how a data visualization is created and how we've achieved the first insight? Any doubts with respect to that? Now if you remember, this insight is not complete because we need to identify this with respect to the different regions as well. So what we'll do is come back to our filter option. Let me just select all, minimize this, and let me add in the region option from here to my visual level filter. Okay, so what happens here is that I can see all the different regions present here. Okay, so here these are the different regions. You have Canada, Caribbean, Central Africa, Central America, Central Asia, Central US, Eastern Asia, Eastern Europe, and so forth. So you have different regions as well. So what we'll be doing is, so let's say I want to see it with respect to Eastern Asia. When I click on Eastern Asia, the visualization takes a change again here. So with respect to Eastern Asia, I had made a 150,000 worth sale and I had made just a profit of 30,000. Okay, although it grew in my fourth quarter to almost 300,000 and a 60,000 profit. Let me check another region. Let me come down. Let me see the Eastern US region. Okay, so here you can see a huge growth. My first quarter there was just a $65,000 sale, but when I come to my fourth quarter, it's still 300,000 and my profit is 44,000 only. Okay, so this helps me identify which are the regions that are not doing well and which are the regions that I can put my interest to or market my products more. Okay, so if I again come back here, if I say Central America, so you can see here it is not a normal growth. So I had 150,000 in the first quarter, second quarter is almost the double, third quarter is close to the second quarter itself, but my fourth quarter is really high. So this means that there has been a growth in the fourth quarter as well as the second quarter. So this basically calls in more investigation. So I need to try to understand why there was not much growth in the third quarter, but at the same time what led to the growth with respect to these two quarters. Okay, so I hope this helps you identify what are the insights also that you can receive from these visualizations. Are you clear with respect to our first visualization? Any doubts with respect to this? Okay, that's great. So moving forward, let's look at the second insight that we need to achieve as part of today's session. We need to identify the performance of different states. Okay, so for this what we'll be doing is we'll go back to our Power BI and let me create a new page. I'll rename this state performance. Okay, So here what we're going to do is first we're going to create a visualization and then we're going to give it the input. So let me select the visualization, that is a scatter chart. Okay, and you can see it has been added here. To this, what I'll do is I'll take my sales from here, add it to my x-axis. I'll take my profit, add it to my y-axis, and then what I'll do is I'll add my state details here. So this basically becomes a scatter plot here. Okay, now what I'll do is let me come down, let me add a filter wherein my country is just United States. So this basically will give me a state-wise representation of the different profits I make in United States. Okay, so this is basically a scatter plot between my profit to my sales. Okay, so you can see here the highest profit to sale ratio is from California, wherein I have almost 460,000 worth sales and a profit of 80,000. At the same time, this is followed by New York. New York has almost close to $311,000 worth sales and it has a profit of 74,000. So it's almost close because these regions have a huge difference with respect to sale amount, but the profit is almost same in New York. Okay, but when you come down to this region, the next state that is following it is Washington. Now Washington, what is happening is that I have just 138,000 worth sale and my profit is 33,000. But when you see this line, right, this line is what you need to concentrate on. Let me first increase the size of the font here. So go back to our filter. Okay, yeah, this should be better. Now if you see here, these are the regions that are giving me negative profit. That is, I'm wasting my money here. Even though these regions are bringing in sales, but they're not bringing in any profit. So if you look at the state of Texas, I have almost 170,000 worth sales coming there. But my profit is in a negative figure, which is minus 25,000. That basically tells me that I'm investing way more to get these sales than making a profit. So these become the regions which I need to concentrate more. Okay, that is, these are my highest priority states. Okay, apart from that, let's say you want to add a specific trend line here. So for that you need to come to the analytics tab here. So trend line basically is a reference line that you can set, okay, based on your overall growth. So this is your standard sales to profit growth. So anything above this is definitely good for you, but anything below is not really good. Now let's say you don't want a trend line. Let me remove this. Let's come back. Let's say you want to add an x-axis constant line. So let me add the value of, let's say, which are the regions that come below the x-axis value of 100,000. Okay, so these are the regions that I need to improve my sales. Anything that is on the right side of this definitely is doing good in terms of sales, but same time let me add a y-axis constant line. So let me keep the value of the y constant about 22,000. Okay, this is basically a rough number. Okay, so anything below this and the intersection, this area, right, this is supposed to be my highest priority area. Anything below this definitely requires an attention. So if I divide them into different quadrants, let me just write it down here. Let me call this 1, let me call this 2, let me call this 3, and let me call this 4. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry with respect to how it looks odd, but I hope this gives you a general idea here. Okay, now here what happens is quadrant 1 does not need any attention because these are my high priority quadrants, and anything here is also bringing me good sales and good profit as well. Quadrant 2 can improve itself. It can slowly move to quadrant 1. So I need to concentrate more with respect to the sales. Okay, so it is bringing me profit, but again I need to increase my sales in this region. Quadrant 3 is the biggest mess here. Even though it is bringing me good amount of sales, but the profit is negative. This basically means that I'm throwing away my money in these regions as such. Quadrant 4 are the regions which are performing moderately okay, but in terms of numbers they are not really anywhere. They're neither crossing my threshold in number of sales, nor are they crossing my threshold in number of profits. So this is going to be my second region of interest. My first priority is going to be the regions in quadrant 3, and my second priority is going to be the regions in quadrant 2. Slowly, if I have time, I can try pushing the states in quadrant 2 to quadrant 1, and quadrant 1 is always above my benchmark. But this doesn't mean that you don't put any attention to this region. Okay, you can always come up with new ideas to increase them beyond. Okay, maybe some understanding as to why only these three regions are making this may help you grow with respect to all your quadrants as well. Okay, so these are just some of the various insights you can get from these visuals. So are you guys clear with respect to the insights that we have achieved here? Any doubts with respect to what I have discussed? Great. So the third insight, what we'll be doing is we'll try to identify a segment-wise performance. Okay, we'll see how each of the segments are doing in the different states. So let's go back to our Power BI desktop. Now let me create a new page here and let me bring in the categories here. Okay, so rather than taking the categories, what I'll take is the subcategories. This will give me a broader idea. So I'll bring in the subcategories, okay, and I'll add to it the number of sales. So this basically is going to be represented in a table form. But a table form is not really helpful for me. So what I'll do is I'll put it in a clustered bar chart. So when I do it in this way, it becomes a clustered bar chart, giving me the different sales made by each of the subcategory. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll variate it a little bit. Okay, now to this what I'll do is I'll just bring in the profits as well. Okay, so I'll add the profit into the color saturation option. Okay, so this you can see has variated. Now if you go back to your format option, you have data colors here. Okay, so here let's again enable divergence. Okay, so let me make it light green, let me make it mid green, and let me make it dark green. So you can see with respect to which are the categories that are giving you profit and which are giving you sales. So if you see, phones are the regions with respect to the maximum sales. However, copiers are the regions with respect to the maximum profit. Okay, so this also gives me a different insight with respect to how these regions are performing. Okay, so this again can be represented in a different way. You can also try this out with a pie chart, but this is my suggestion. So here's a homework for you. Why don't you try representing the same chart in a different way, and it'll be interesting for you as well. So I hope you guys are up for that. Okay, it's good to see. So let me just rename this finally once more. I'll call it segment performance. Okay, and let's go back to our presentation and let's see the final insight that we need to get. Now this basically is to identify the revenue generated by each category of the product, okay, and identifying which category of product is hampering my growth. Let me create a new page. So I'll call it revenue generated. Okay, so who can tell me what are the different data that I need for this visualization? You can take a guess, guys. Okay, yes, so I need the category definitely. So let me put in category. I need my sales. I need my profit. And finally, let me also bring in the order date. But here what I'll do is in my order date, I'll just take year instead of months. This will help me understand how the different category of products are function throughout the year. So what I'll do is I'll just variate it a bit. Let me take a line chart graph. So here what happens is you can just see two things, that is with respect to furniture, office supplies and technologies, the sales to profit ratio. Okay, so let me just full screen this. Now here what happens is you have the option of going to the next level of hierarchy. So if you just click on this, what happens is it becomes sales and profit by year. Okay, so you have sales profit per year. So this is a sales per profit distribution. But when you go up, what happens is it's the profit made by each of the categories overall. Okay, now I'll just bring this down. So here what I'll do is I'll just remove the categories from here, and then it just becomes a sales to profit ratio. Okay, that is the sales and profit made in different years. Here what you can do is that you can actually filter it. So to my visual level filter, what I'll do is I'll bring in the categories. So this basically will help me identify the sales and profit made in each of the year. So let's say for furniture alone, this is the sales to profit ratio made in each year. So 2012, 2013, 14 and 15. Okay, similarly with respect to office supplies, you get a number. Let's say furniture and office supplies. So this is a different number and you can work around with respect to that. So this will give you an insight with respect to all the three categories. At the same time, you can also compare multiple categories together. Okay, so this rather than applying it directly to the visual can be added as a filter to your visual. Okay, so with this we've achieved the four major insights that we're trying to achieve at the beginning of the session, and we've created multiple reports for this. Now it's time that we go on to create our dashboard. Before that, what you need to do is that you need to save this file. So let me save it. So let me call it my first dashboard. Okay, so here when I save it, it's going to be saved in form of a .pbix file, which is a supported file from Power BI. Now that I have saved it, it's time that I publish it to my second Power BI interface, that is Power BI Search. That is going to be the interface where we will be creating our dashboard. So for that, what you need to do is that you need to publish. So this is one of the major reasons that I had mentioned that you need to sign up for Power BI. Okay, because this is going to go to Power BI service, which is an online browser based interface, and that's where we want to create our dashboard. Once you click on publish, so you can see it's publishing to my Power BI service. Okay, so here itself you get the notification that it has successfully published it to my Power BI, and click on open Power BI dashboard. Okay, so you can see here the browser is opening this report. So you can see here it has been opened as different pages for a report. Now let's say if you want to edit this report, you can do that on Power BI service as well. So just click on edit reports and you have almost the same features present here as you had in Power BI desktop. But again, what I need you to understand is you cannot manipulate the data that is associated to this report. To do that, you need to work it on your Power BI desktop, not on Power BI service. Okay, so here let's say let me remove this. So this is profit region with respect to all. This was the sample representation that we had created first. So this also has a next level of hierarchy if you see. Okay, so what is happening here is that it is considering the whole profit of United States rather than individual states. So if you go to an upper view, it basically becomes this. So that in turn would be helpful when you're working with different countries. Okay, so we had set a filter here that the country is just United States. Okay, now if I remove this, okay, then it sort of becomes a mess. So if I do that, it happens to be a global level representation. Okay, so that time it becomes slightly hard for you to identify which. So that time what happens is you need to see the bigger picture here. So you can drill down to your visual report, and then what happens is it becomes a representation in terms of a global scale. So earlier what was being represented as individual states now becomes with respect to different countries. Okay, are you guys clear? Okay, great. So now it's time that we begin by creating our first dashboard. Okay, so you have the option here of reports dashboard. So you have the option of workspace. So you can work with multiple workspaces. Okay, so by default you'll be working in my workspace, and under that you have first report that I had created earlier and the present report that you were working with, that is my first dashboard. So you can also load an Excel workbook here in case if you want to use a workbook for different visualizations. And apart from that, you have the data sets associated to the different reports also present here. Okay, now let me show you how to create a dashboard. Now creating a dashboard is quite easy. All you need to do is just click on the pin visual option. Okay, and it'll ask you whether you need to pin to an existing dashboard or create a new dashboard. Now since there are no existing dashboards, I'm going to create a new dashboard. I'll call it my first dashboard and I'll pin to it. Okay, similarly I'll take my state performance. Okay, I'll pin it to my dashboard. Segment performance also goes to my first dashboard. So you can see here by default it is showing me there's a dashboard present. So when you work with multiple dashboards, you can select it accordingly. Go to pin. Let me take revenue generated also. I'll pin it there. Okay, so with this we've pinned all the visuals that we have created to our dashboard. So let me show you how the dashboard would look like. So here you can see now there's an entry for my first dashboard. If you click on that, you have all the 4 visuals that you had created as part of your dashboard. So this is what a dashboard would look like in a web view. But let's say if you want to see it in terms of a phone view, that is if in an app how it would look like. So just do the same, you can change it here. So this is how it would look on the phone application. So this would again vary with respect to how it is set on your phone. The screen size and everything would magnify the image, but don't worry. Okay, let's go back to the web view. Now here, let's say if you want to set it as feature. So then you have the option of set as featured. So if you say set as featured, this becomes your featured dashboard as such. Okay, then you have the option of favoriting the dashboard. So when you're working with multiple dashboards, then it becomes easy for you to manage with it. Then you have the option of sharing your dashboard. Now To do that, you need to upgrade your account to Power BI Pro, which basically would cost you only $10 a month. Okay. They do have a 30 days trial period as well, but since I've completed mine, I presently is being disabled. So once you do that, you can always share this report to anyone that you want. Okay. Any doubts clear? Okay. Now let's say if you want to reorder this as well, it's quite simple. It's just a drag and drop operation. So let me show you one of the most unique features that Power BI dashboard allows you to. This basically is your Power BI Q&A. So let's say if you want to have any idea with respect to your data. Let me ask which state has highest sales. So this tells me which state is bringing me the highest sales. So it's coming from England. Okay. And accordingly it has given me a visual with respect to all the states. That is, it's giving me the maximum first and correspondingly it is following a descending order. Okay. So let's say which state has the highest profit. Let's see with respect to profit. So let's say profit. Okay. Now again you can see it is changing here. So it's England again here, but the values have changed. Okay. So if I say profit and sales, so now it has completely changed. It's giving me a scatter plot. Okay, but this is slightly different from the scatter plot that we have created. This is on a global scale. And this basically is an insight that is being achieved through Power BI's Q&A feature. So for any dashboard that you create, you can use Power BI's Q&A feature, wherein you can simply just put across your queries and Power BI will create a data visual and give you a complete insight. So any doubts with respect to the visualizations, the insights that we have achieved, the reports that we have created, or the dashboard that we have created finally? Okay, so before we end this session, let's just take a simple look at how Power BI is performing in today's market. Because it's always important to understand the market for a technology before you completely dive into it. Now, in terms of job vacancies, Power BI is something that is growing rapidly. Now, the rate of growth is somewhere about 3% every month at the current scenario. But again, it's something that is going to increase more. Because how effective Power BI has become in today's market, how easy it is for anyone to use Power BI is going to bring in a lot more opportunities. So it's always helpful if you move into this field, the beginning itself, and that way have a lot more experience when it becomes a popular technology. So apart from that, when you look at the salary average, it's somewhere about £50,000 for a 3 month. Okay, the 3 month tenure is what this graph is representing. So this basically is a huge amount, but then again, I would not tell that this would be less because Power BI is something that is used by people from different domains. This could be a corporate business head. Everyone today is comfortable using Power BI because it is a self-service business intelligence tool. It can be used by people who have some technical knowledge and also can be used by people who have no technical knowledge as well. So it caters to the need of multiple people with respect to their needs. Okay, so with this we come to a conclusion of today's session. Hope you had a great session. Thank you and goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it and you can comment any of your doubts and queries and we will reply to them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to our Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!